What's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. It's, me, Daniel. Today I have a special guest. He is the son of Representative of District 33, Saul Talley. He's a former football coach of mine, a mentor of mine, and, just a longtime friend of mine. So, guys, help me welcome Saul Talley. What you been up to?
Well, actually, right now I just got off a horse. So my son and we were out riding horses around the lake, and so that's what I like to usually do on the weekends.
Blackwell?
Yep. So we live right there, and so we're usually, if it's not a hunting season, we're usually on a horse. So yeah.
Yeah. And did you get anything this year for hunting?
Okay, so it was a tough year from the aspect of we lost like 3 different hunting leases.
Ooh.
Yeah, just people selling them out from under us, and then we also my parents have lived in the same house since I was 2, and they have about 20 acres there, and it used to be all hardwoods all around it, and it's slowly been bought up, just an acre or 2 at a time. And so we were sitting in a tree stand that I've been in for 20 something years, and there were people driving side by sides down the fence line, and just all that kind of stuff that you can't control.
Right.
And so it's been hard living in Stillwater, watching it just slowly be chipped away to where it's just bigger.
Expanding.
It's, oh my gosh, so much.
You guys would play in the old Hamilton Field.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then old Lewis Field, right?
Yeah, no, it was still Lewis Field, and that's what's funny sometimes whenever kids see pictures of my OSU stuff, they're like, "Where's that game at?" And I was like, "I was in Stillwater." They're like, "No, it's not."
Right.
And I'm like, "It didn't always look like the West End Zone," and in fact, that was one of my first practices at OSU. Was right whenever they started doing the expansion of Gallagher. So we'd be there at practice, and they'd have the cranes and going up with the.
So they were making Gallagher higher, right? Or
yeah, they were making it higher
adding bleachers and expanding
wider and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean it's been crazy.
That was what, in the 90s?
Yeah, that was 99, spring of 99.
Dang. So Gallagher's pretty. Well, no, I guess it's 21 years or
Yeah.
22 years now.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's, growing up here, because, Dad wrestled at OSU, and so we would always go to OSU wrestling matches and stuff. And so I remember watching whenever it still had like the old hardwood folding chairs and stuff like that. And so I remember the first time they remodeled it, and then I remember the second time.
Well, the first time was the second bleacher, like the first.
The first time they just pulled out all the old, just the wooden folding chairs, and then they went back with kind of the orange ones, and then they put all the brass handrails and stuff like that.
The second time was just the whole expansion.
Yeah, the second time was like, we need to double the size of this place.
Yeah,
so,
thanks to Eddie and.
Yeah, Eddie and just all that. Yeah, it was really pretty much Eddie.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah. I think it's all Eddie there.
Yeah. For sure. But then they also, they enclosed the football offices, because they used to be on the east side of the football field.
Okay.
And so there was a walking path in between, so you could walk in between Gallagher and Lewis Field,
right.
And then
which was where you guys entered the field too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was kind of down on that corner right there, and so then they brought it all the way out to where it's attached to the football field. So I mean, it was major. So yeah.
Are you still coaching?
Nope, I haven't. For this fall will be my 7th season that I haven't coached. Yeah.
So
I have to do the math on that. I was there. I coached junior high football for 9 years.
Okay.
So yeah.
Are you still teaching?
Yes.
Okay.
Still teach Oklahoma history and U.S. government at the junior high.
That's fun.
So, yeah, it is. It's fun. Education right now has a lot of challenges and all that kind of stuff.
Especially here in Oklahoma.
Yes. Well, I think it's everywhere. I think that right now there's a lot of people, I think because there's the hope that we're coming back, I think some of the poison towards teachers have kind of calmed down, but it hasn't. I haven't been just like hanging out at my house, like,
Right.
watching TV and stuff.
You're-
It's been,
You're always going, aren't you? Like,
well, just, having to learn how to do the virtual part. I'm not as awesome as Malachi, so I've had to really kind of buckle down and study up on how to present my stuff and do it virtual. And then, you've got to have all your stuff on your Google Classroom, and then kids email you questions, and that's just kind of nonstop. So,
so you kind of get a taste of what your dad gets. Because
yeah,
you gotta
a
check
little
your
bit.
email and whatnot.
Oh yeah, no, whenever, gosh, when we came back from Christmas, like my inbox had like 97 student emails, so I was like, I'm gonna be here for a minute.
Right.
So I've never really felt like I've had a desk job. This is my 18th year of teaching. I've never really felt like I had a desk job until this year.
Really.
Yeah, and so I just kind of make my list of stuff to do and all that, and try to
Have you
get it
been in class at all?
a little bit. So we started the first 2 days of school back in August were in person, and then they shut it down. So we missed all of September, and then October we kind of tried to make a comeback, and the numbers just kept spiking, and so then we went virtual, and then we came back.
How'd we do football games this year?
That's a great question, and what I believe was it was kind of basically just kind of parents only.
Okay.
Yeah, and football, in my opinion, was a little bit easier to do because you're out there in the stadium and it's open air and all that kind of stuff, and
Right.
and you can get away from people if you need to. So yeah.
So you played for Stillwater High School,
I
obviously.
did. Yeah. I played for Coach DeFee, and that was fall of 95, 96, and 97.
So you played with Fields?
Fields is actually I played with him at OSU, but
Okay.
we just missed each other at Stillwater. So, but I did get to play with Matt Holiday.
Holiday. Okay.
He's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had to Google him or not, but
I remembered it was one of the two that you played with. You played with both, but
yeah, I played with Matt, and and there was some other good players on that
so
team.
you played in that the Tulsa Union Ice Bowl game. Or
Yeah,
whatever?
yeah, and it was crazy because it was about 60 degrees, and then it went from 60 degrees to about like 20 degrees, and it was like snow coming in sideways, and
Sounds
it was
like fun.
yeah, no, it's the highlights on it are pretty awesome. That was one of the things that they did a really good job of, is making like end of the year highlight videos.
There's a famous picture of Matt Holiday in that game.
Oh yeah.
So that's why I bring it up.
Yeah, no, it is. That was a blast. And so we beat Tulsa Union, and then the next week we had to play Muskogee, and we beat them. And so then we got to play on Lewis Field and lost to Putnam City North. So that was
For the state championship?
that was for
Or
the semifinals.
semifinals? Okay.
And I don't remember the final on it, but it was close. Like it was
Okay.
within 10 points, I think. And we had there was like a really bad call on I hate to go there on refs, but it was like 4th and 1, and we had a huge defensive tackle, and he wound up playing at OSU, and he like met the quarterback and the running back in the backfield where it should have been like a 3 or 4 yard loss. And then, the side judge comes running in, he like picks it up and moves it over. And it was like, he didn't even have his momentum going. There was no way that
Terrible
was
spot.
there was no way that was a first down. So, but that was kind of, it was a different era of football, in my opinion.
Football's changed a lot.
Yeah, it really has.
I mean, the helmets.
Yeah.
No one uses these.
Oh, I know.
These are
And-
concussion protocol, like against concussion protocol now.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, and so I mean, so I started in the 6th grade, and then I played 4.5 years in college, and my helmet hurt my head in 6th grade, and it hurt my head my last game, the Houston Bowl,
You
in
played
college.
in the Houston Bowl, which was
Well, actually, I didn't get to play in the Houston Bowl. I had a really great, position to watch the game. I got to suit up, I got to travel, but I didn't actually get to play. in that game. So
That was in what, 2004?
2.
2002.
Yeah, and so it was the first time OSU had been back to
A bowl game.
since '97. So
I want to say I went to that one, or maybe it was later on.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Have you gone to the Houston Bowl twice?
yes, but they've kind of renamed it. It's still at Reliant, I think. Let's see, we played A&M there like 2 years ago.
Okay.
And then I think I don't remember, which is a really good problem to have, because whenever we first went in 2002, we were all like, "Oh my gosh, this is a bowl game. This is awesome."
Right.
And then they've just kind of kept it going. So because whenever I was a little kid,
that was under Miles too, wasn't it?
it was Coach Miles' second year.
Okay.
Yeah, and so but I remember whenever I was a little kid, well, my first real memory, Dad got tickets to go watch Bedlam in '88 to watch Barry play.
Ooh.
And I was jumping up and down. I thought, Brent Parker had caught that pass, and I was like, "Oh, yes, we beat OU." And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And then whenever they were like, "No, it was incomplete." And at that time, there was no replay in the stadium, and I couldn't figure out how you didn't catch that. And I just remember I cried all the way home, all the way down Hall of Fame, down Western, turn right on 44th. I cried all the way home, and I was just like, I want to play in that game. I've got to play in that game. I've got to know what that feels like.
And you did it for 4 years.
Well, and so, it wasn't quite that easy. So out of high school, I actually went to a place called Ottawa University.
Okay.
Because my buddy was the defensive coordinator. And so I went there, and I was the deep snapper for them. And being there, and this kind of goes back to Stillwater a little bit, it's weird when you go to play college football, because in high school, I had known everybody on my team since elementary school. I mean, we would play against each other at recess and stuff like that. And so, and then, you meet new friends when you get to the middle school and all that kind of stuff. And so we played against each other in 6th and 7th grade. And then, we'd all known each other our whole lives. And you get to college, and at that school, it was a small school. There was about 500 people in the whole school, and 110 of them played football. And a majority of them came from a really small schools in Kansas or Missouri.
Okay.
And so I was kind of like looking around like, okay, I know no one here. And it was a different culture. It was a different culture of football.
How do you mean different?
Well, okay, you know how big the stadium is at the junior high?
Yeah, it's really, really small.
That's how big their field is.
Jeez.
Yeah, and so then whenever I got there, they're like, okay, so you owe us $150 for your travel suit and your cleats. And I was like, what? This is college football. Like, I didn't even have to pay for stuff in high school. Are you kidding me? And so I learned a lot through that process. I probably should have done more of my homework. I probably should have asked better questions when they were recruiting me. There's just a lot of things I learned through that process. But what it did do is it made me really hungry, because I knew guys that were playing at OSU. And I was like, okay, I can either call my football career quits, or I can, just go see. And if they cut me, they cut me.
Right.
If I die on the football field, I'll die a happy man, because I really didn't care at that point.
Okay.
And so I was like, I'm not going to stay here and keep doing this. And so
You stayed for a season, or?
yeah, for a season. So I contacted Tommy Kaiser, who was the special teams coordinator at OSU at that time and recruiting coordinator.
Okay.
And we had kind of already had a relationship in high school, because he had brought
OSU is right in our backyard.
Right.
So
yeah. And he had put me on the pass list as a recruit and stuff like that, but it was never really more than anything like that. And so it wasn't like they were coming to me. I went to them. And so, I went there and said, hey, I can deep snap. And he was like, okay, well, we've got a senior, and and you're going to have to sit a year so you can practice, you can work out, and you can go to class, but you can't suit up on Saturdays, and we'll use you on the scout team. And I was like, okay, sounds good to me. Because, growing up, all my favorite athletes were always OSU Cowboys. In fact, I don't even really have an NFL team. I just pick whichever team has the most OSU players on it. And that's the team I'm going to root for
So currently
on Sunday.
the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, absolutely. Mason is our friend, and that's a whole other story, but Mason's a good dude. But the cooler guy is Mason's grandpa, which is a different story. So, but anyways, because out of high school, my last game was my senior year. We played Jinx, and they beat us 77-0. And and so they had like 17 guys go Division I. Of those 17 that went Division I, out of that one senior class, 2 of them made it to the NFL. So, and I'm not talking about like made a practice squad. I'm talking about they actually, they are tenured in the NFL. They played more than 5. One of them played more than 5 years. Well, one of them was Rocky Kalmus, and he won the Butt Kiss Award, and a national championship, and he was hard to block. And then the other one was a offense and defensive lineman, and he played for Tampa Bay for 10 or 12 years.
Now, are they still producing NFL players like Union? I don't hear much about NFL.
They're still sending really top end Division I talent.
Like when I was playing, their quarterback, number 13, I don't remember his name, but his number was 13. He was getting recruited by like Alabama, Oklahoma, and like LSU.
Yeah, I mean they're still sending legit D1 talent places. I couldn't tell you right now if they had anybody in the NFL.
Have we sent anyone recently to the NFL? Well,
Stillwater High School or OSU?
Well, OSU obviously has, but like
the only person.
High School.
Well, Artie Smith, he played in the NFL for the Cowboys, the Bengals, the 49ers. He had a pretty long NFL career. He's probably the most decorated football player from Stillwater High School, in my opinion. I mean, right. I know it's all subjective, but I can't name another NFL guy that I know of.
I mean, if Matt had followed, maybe.
And that's what's kind of hard, I think.
He's a great baseball player.
He's unbelievable. Playing? No, he's the volunteer coach
at OSU
right,
now.
Yeah, right now. Okay. So, but it's great to have him back in town. The hard part is like we were talking about, like the difference in football in the last 20 years. We really were not passing. Like if Matt threw the ball 15 to 20 times a game, that was like a lot. Because I mean, it hadn't gotten to the point where everybody was in spread. We were an I formation team,
no diamond
so,
package.
None of that. I mean, nobody thought about going 4 or even 5 receivers in a game. That would have been unheard of.
When did that switch?
To me, it's kind of that I give credit to like Hal Mummy, and really a lot of people, because whenever I was in college was whenever Mike Leach went from OU to Tech. And everybody was like, you can't throw it out there in the wind and all that kind of stuff. And he was like, watch me.
He was kind of the first one
to. I give him a lot of credit for it. I'm sure that there might be some football people that watch this that can think of other people or Google somebody up. But he's the one that was like, I'm going to like hang 80 on you if I can.
Right. And
we're going to go fast and you're going to like it and all that. And so it's really, that's why I mean, Matt is like an unbelievable athlete, and I was lucky to get to know him and play with him ever since I was little. But I don't think, because I was talking to somebody about this just yesterday, and they were like, well, what would have happened if Matt would have gone to OSU instead of playing pro baseball? And I was like, well, I mean, you had Bob Simmons, and he was kind of still nobody was airing it out on his staff. And then Coach Miles came in, and and he was real heavy in the run game and pass it whenever you need to.
Right.
And so I don't know if he would have flourished like that.
Did Gundy come on first thing with Miles?
Yes.
So he was just a quarterback's coach, though.
And offensive coordinator.
Oh, he was coordinator.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know because I didn't have a headset on at that time, but I do know that, Coach Miles was the offensive coordinator, previously at OSU.
Okay.
Under Simmons.
I didn't know that. Okay.
He left and went to the Cowboys, and then he came back. But I know he had a heavy influence in what was going on.
Okay.
Like he was, okay, here's your choices kind of deal. And Coach Gundy's, he's stubborn and prideful, and he's going to come up with the good stuff too. So I think it was a collaboration, I would say, and that's just my best guess. I never had the headset on, but that's the way it always seemed to me in practices and games. So my comment to the person was, I think if Matt would have gone to like Florida with Steve Spurrier was kind of starting to get that, chunk it all over the yard type stuff and being creative. I think that would have looked different. I think that would have I would have thought he might have won a Heisman Trophy. I mean, it's like, it was pretty amazing that I got to play with the best high school quarterback in the state of Oklahoma, all 3 years.
Yeah.
And that's why, to me, this is cool is because Coach DeFee, he had Josh Holliday for 3 years, who was an unbelievable leader and a great athlete and could do anything on the football field he wanted to. Then he had Matt Holliday for 3 years. Then he had Josh Fields for 3 years. So for 9 years straight, you had the best quarterbacks in the state of Oklahoma.
But you had two brothers. And
Yeah.
then you had another repeat of two brothers. You had the Littells.
Yeah.
And the Littells are very, very talented. And like Jeremy basically followed kind of Matt and played baseball.
Right. Well, and that's why I think, Jeremy, since he played for me, I can say this because he was always like, yeah, does Matt know how? And I was like, dude, you're throwing the ball like 40 or 50 times a game. That would take Matt like 3 games because, and like Coach DeFee,
it was a completely different offense.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I don't know how many kids nowadays could actually play for him. He played high school football for his dad in West Texas. He played college football at TCU. He was in the Army. He had a PhD from OU, and he was 6'3", 250, and you did not want to make him mad. It was all the DeFee myths are true. I'm just going to say that. And we kind of had the lightened version of him because my junior year, he had to have foot surgery, and so he was in a golf cart. Mm. So he couldn't do, jerk you around by your helmet and all that kind of stuff.
You can't do that anymore.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you got to make kids feel special now. Yeah. So
you dropped the ball. Good job, kid.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know because I've been out of it, so I don't know.
What got you into coaching?
Well, to be honest with you, I was, I loved football so much. I don't know that I ever saw myself wanting to play in the NFL. Like I never really saw that as like something that was like an option for me because I'm, a medium-sized white guy that's slow. So I kind of understood that wasn't going to be a thing, but I wanted to play in Bedlam. That was like my thing. The main thing. That was what I wanted to know what it was like to play in Bedlam.
What'd that feel like while we're here? What'd it feel like?
I mean,
because you went.
It's hard.
When did you enter college? 2000, 2001?
Fall of 98.
Okay.
And so fall of 98, I went to Ottawa, and I was like, this is not big time enough for me. If I'm going to do this, I want to know what it's like. So you transferred
over to 99.
So then I transferred to OSU, so I had to sit the year of 99, so I went to practice. I was on the scout team.
So you enjoyed that 2001.
So 99, so 2000 was the first year I got to suit up for home games, which was freaking awesome. And then 2001, whenever I was kind of,
that was the 16th, 13th game, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I was in there in 2 days, and I was competing, and I was right there, and then I got injured, and they took a urine test on me, and it showed that I was spilling too much protein out of my kidneys, so they tried to get me to quit. And I was like, no, I'm not quitting. And they're like, and the problem was there was already an NFL player and 2 college players that had died that fall from heat exhaustion. And so I had to go through a whole bunch of tests, and then they pulled me out of 2 days. So I kind of lost my spot, and I got bumped from like 1B to like number 3. And so I lost my spot, and I had to go through a whole bunch of medical tests to get cleared before OSU would let me play.
Right.
So then after about 2 weeks, I got to come back out, and I got to play, or I got to practice again. And so then by that point, I kind of lost my spot. So I went in to Coach DeForest's office, and I said, look, I get it. I wasn't here for as much of 2 days as I need to be. So
Wait,
how about
DeForest was with Miles?
Yeah.
And then
Miles hired him from Duke.
And then he just stuck around with Gundy after.
Yep.
I didn't know DeForest was. Okay,
Yeah, and
that's
so
cool.
he was like, okay, well, how about we throw you over there on scout team defense? And I was like, perfect, let's do this. So I would go do all the special team stuff, and then I would go do linebacker stuff, and then I would go and play scout team for the rest of practice, and it was so much fun. It was awesome. And so, anyways, where I was going with this is, whenever I made it through the end of 2001, Bedlam was in Norman. And so Coach DeForest like, hey, come into my office. And I was like, okay. And keeping in the mindset, I figured every day if I didn't do something special or give extra effort, that could be my last practice. Because you'd go in, and there'd be guys, and they would just put a letter on their door or in their locker, and they were done.
Kind of like the NFL, they hand you a notice or.
Yeah,
Right.
and it was kind of like that. And so I just thought, I need to do something special every day. And so he was like, hey, I need to talk to you. And I just took out all the cuss words of it. But and so I was like, yeah, Coach, what's up? And he goes, what do you think about Norman? I was like, it sucks. I live in Stillwater. And he goes, think you could handle it for 48 hours or 24 hours? And I was like, yeah, I could do that. And he goes, I'm traveling you. And I was like, are you serious? And I like jumped on him and hugged. He's like, hey, get off me. Don't hug me. And I was like, okay, I'm good. And so, whenever you make the travel squad, it's like on a different level. Cause they pack your gear for you. They put your pads in, they handle everything. And then, you go into the hotel, and it's, there's all kinds of snacks and stuff. And then, back then we used to go to the movies, and that was kind of cool because you're watching movies with all your friends.
That was before COVID. Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, going to movies, that was cool. So anyways, long story short, we, and then Bedlam's awesome because the highway patrol escort, like I've never been down I-35 that fast before. It was awesome. So, you go in and
you travel pretty fast when you.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. And they don't slow down for anybody. That I do miss that about going to games.
It's what, a 30-minute drive to Norman?
It was right about that. So, and then it's funny too because there's some troopers that are OSU guys, and there's some that are the other guys. And so, you get in there and they start heckling you and stuff like that. And you go in there, and at that time, I've heard it's different now because they spend a lot of money because we spend a lot of money.
Right.
But whenever you went into their locker room, it wasn't a whole lot bigger than this room. And they had one toilet, and it was overflowing. And it was terrible. And so, and they just had like wooden racks with hooks on them, so your helmet was just kind of hanging there. It looked like it had been that way since probably like 1950. And so, anyways, whenever you walked out at that time, it wasn't really like a tunnel. It was just like the side of the stadium.
Okay.
And so we went to walk out, and
was it bowled in by that time?
No, it was like 3 different sections. Yeah,
kind of just like Lewis Field was.
Yeah, and so snappers and holders and punters and kickers, they always go out first. And so as I was walking out, one of our strength coaches goes, "Tally, put your helmet on." I went like this and put that helmet on, and somebody had chunked like a full cup with beer in it,
Oh.
and it just went, and it just like went all over me, and I was like, seriously? And I turned around, the guy flipped me off, and I was like, that's good to be in Norman. And so, and that's why it's like whenever people are like, oh, well, why don't you root? I don't care if it is. You pick the team. I'm not gonna root. I'm not. There's no amount of money that would convince me that I need to root for them. So, anyways, so that game goes on. That was a 16-13 game, and it was awesome. It was so cool just to be there.
That's when they had the skeletons and you hung them with the helmets on them, and
Yeah,
that's offensive now.
yeah, absolutely. And so, anyways, that game was real tight, and I kept looking around. You know, growing up in Stillwater, I was thinking, we've got a chance here. Like, I don't want to say it out loud, but I think we're going to win this game. And so then we wound up winning, and this little bitty OU cheerleader, she like ran into me, and I was like, excuse me, and she goes, yeah, and flipped me off, like gave me the double bird, and I was like, sorry, guess I'm not for you.
So that's not your wife now.
No, that is not my wife now.
That
yeah, no, not even close. And so then that was cool too, just being a part of that game and just being on the field and all that kind of stuff. Well, then I went all the way through spring ball, got tons of reps, great experience, lifted as hard as I could that summer. And going into that fall, it was my senior year. And I, did the best I could, was still doing the scout team stuff. And so I was third on the depth chart, and I was like, and so there was three of us, and we were all three seniors, and so the guy that was in front of me, he was faster than me, but I was a little bit bigger than him. Like when I say fast, like the speed of his snaps were faster than mine.
Well, you're not supposed to hit the snapper, or can you back then?
Well, it was kind of a gray area back then.
Okay.
There's sometimes whenever they might try to kind of push on one side or not, but you still had to kind of maintain your blocking space,
Okay.
so to speak. And then back then, they did a spread punt formation. And so you'd have to actually block. They couldn't hit you while you're snapping, but as soon as your hands go between your legs, they're like grabbing it, and they won't let you pull your arm out, and so all that kind of stuff. And so you had to be able to move a little bit. And so it was fun because whenever I first got there, my freshman year.
What were you majoring in as well?
Education.
Okay, education.
Yeah. And that's kind of a separate tally type thing, but whenever I first got there, I was like, this is like bad. Like maybe they were right, maybe I shouldn't have been here. But by the time I got to my senior year, I was like, this is kind of easy. Like I'd kind of figured out the speed of the game. I'd figured out how to do some of the things I needed to do. And so anyways, we went all the way through non-conference, and then we get to Kansas State week, which was like one of the first weeks in October. And the guy that was in front of me, he got like one rep, and he airmailed it.
Ooh.
And then I hear Coach DeForest yell for me, and so I ran in there. And I don't know where the ball went until I went to film, but it was like right there where it needed to be. And so he was like, you're traveling, you're not. And I was like, whoa, I'm going to K-State. This is pretty cool. And then we got up there and we got beat like 55-10.
That's the year they won the Big 12, isn't it?
They were pretty high. I don't think they won it that year, but that was a pretty good group.
Right. Snyder's.
Yeah, Coach Snyder.
Snyder's last years, though.
Not in 2002. I don't know what his years were.
Because he took off a minute and then came back.
Yeah, I think
and now
that was
he's done again.
I was done whenever he retired the first time.
Okay.
But anyways, it was back to all the fun stuff. But we got beat, and then they took a wrong turn, and we wound up in like Leavenworth, and we were still bussing it back then. And so we were like trying to do like a 3-point turn on
Boone Pickens came in and donated a lot.
Oh yeah, no, we bussed it to Kansas, we bussed it to Kansas State. So anyways, I traveled the whole rest of the year, and then Bedlam was senior day, and so we got to. Well, let me back up. So I forgot about this. Is an important detail, and my dad will be mad if I leave this out. So Baylor. We're playing Baylor, and it's our second to last game before
Bedlam.
the season's
Or
over.
the season, okay.
So this is like, game number 11 or whatever. And so we're up on them pretty good. And then Coach DeForest comes and grabs me. He's like, "You're going in at linebacker." And I was like, "Sweet, let's do this." So I get out there, and one of my buddies that was playing safety was like, "You got that inside receiver," because they were starting to kind of spread it out.
Right.
And I was thinking to myself, "Oh, crap." Because I'm looking at him, and he looks like he can run a little bit, and I can't. And so, I took my read steps, and it told me it was a pass, so I flipped my hips, and I just started running as fast as I could run. And it must have been pretty good because everybody was like, "No, you're right there with him. He was right on your hip." Well, then I see his eyes get really big, and I was like, they just threw him the ball. So I just kind of like shot my hand up like in between his hands, and the ball bounced off my helmet. And so, so I got a pass breakup, and so they left me in for 3 more plays. So I got to play 4 plays of linebacker against Baylor, which sounds really awesome now because Baylor, can kind of hold their own.
Yep.
Well, so then the next week at the practice, the kickers were running around hitting each other in the back of the head with the football, going, "Oh, look, I'm Tally doing a pass breakup." And I was like, "Thanks, guys. Appreciate that." Because my thing was I wasn't going to let him score on me. I don't care if I got a pass interference. You're not going to score on me.
Right.
I'm going to make you earn it. And what I was afraid of is if I, flip my hips around, he's like 6'4". No, I was afraid he was going to come up over the top and like take it away from me.
Like Rashawn Woods.
Yes, like that. And so all I was thinking is just I'm going to pass interfering because I'm not going to let him score on me. And
so your senior year was 2002?
Correct.
Was Woods there already?
Yeah, he was there.
Okay.
So he made the catch the year before, and so then the next game was Bedlam, and so that's why I felt like I needed to throw that in there. So usually the week before, ones get all the reps, twos kind of watch, and then you might get 1 or 2 as practice goes on. And so for whatever reason that week, they gave the guy in front of me about all the reps, and you only do like certain things on certain days. So I was like, okay, I don't have any reps this week. So, I did everything I could, did the best I could. I have no regrets on this. I'm glad I tried. I made some unbelievable friends. And so now I don't have to wonder. And so, I'm standing there watching the game, and the guy in front of me is running down on punt because he snapped, and so now he's covering, and he falls down like a sniper got him. And I was like, okay. We didn't cover it because usually in pre-practice or pre-game meeting, they run through every scenario you can think of, and I was like, I haven't had.
This wasn't a scenario.
Right. No. Like, it wasn't like, "Hey, Tally, okay, I need you to be ready for this or that." And so I was thinking in my head, is it me or is it the other guy? I don't know who they're wanting in. And then I was thinking, okay, I haven't had reps since K-State, which was like 2 months ago.
Right.
So I've done a lot of scout team. I've done everything they've asked of me. And so anyways, they come down the sideline, and they're yelling at me like I just stole something. And I was like, "Yeah, what do you need, coach?" And he's like, "You're in." And I was like, "Okay, let's do this." And so anyways, it was there. This is a great Josh Fields story. So everybody was like running over to me and like doing the head slap and trying to get me motivated.
Right.
And Josh, like, I guess he sees it because he's over there on the phone, and he walks over there and he stands in front of me and he's like, "You guys go away." And then he turns around and he was like, "Saul's got this. Don't talk to him. Don't mess with him. He's got this." And I was like, and I tell him all the time, "Thanks for doing that." And he's like, "Whatever. That's what teammates do." But anyways, and so I was just like, okay. So then in my mind, I started going back to like, okay, I've got to remind myself what it's like whenever I do it right in practice and all the practice scenarios that I've done it in. But I hadn't had any in a while. So I'm like trying to kind of like trick myself into doing this. And so, anyways, so I go out there. I always felt better on PATs. I felt like there was nobody better at snapping on PATs or field goals in the country. I felt like that was something I could hang my hat on. So the first play that I got was a field goal, and I was like, I got this. And so I looked back there, hit his hand. Luke missed it. Some people blame it on me, but
Laces out.
Well, I mean, and that's what my thing is. I got it right there, and he pushed it to the right. So everybody's like, well, he's all slower than the other guy. And so, like, you know, my get-off times were like 0.55, 5.6, right in there. The other guy was like 4.8, 4.5.
Not too much.
Yeah, like a tenth of a. I mean,
Right.
you know, a tenth of a second's gonna mess you up that bad. So, anyways,
Kickers can be drama queens sometimes.
yeah, well, and they had to have a reason for why he missed that one because it was like a 42-yard chip shot. So, anyways, so they were like, "Hey, that was good. Do it again." And so, well, the next one was a punt, and so I snapped it, and I'm running down on kickoff, and I see the returner coming. I'm like, I'm fixing to make a tackle. And then all of a sudden, here comes Billy Badgema from my right, and he just like wipes him out. And I was like, whoa. That's, and you know, he wound up winning a Super Bowl ring with the Ravens and played for the 49ers and the Rams. And so I was just like, I'm on the field
With some legends.
with some legends, and I'm in freaking Bedlam. This is
Right.
this is what I've always wanted. And so anyways, we get down, and it's 35-21, and there's like 4 minutes to go, and we decided to kick like about a 45-yard field goal. And it's kind of sad now because when they bowled in the west end zone, you know, you can't really see whenever the sun goes down. But I kind of have my routine, and so I got down and I got set, and I looked back there, and my buddy Mike, the holder, whenever he put his hand out, like, it's really weird because all I could see was his hand, and it was just like gold. And like, I don't even remember like the snap cadence or anything. I could just hear my heartbeat, and it wasn't like a rabbit. It was like real slow, like a sniper. And so all I could see was gold, which sometimes as snappers, it's really easy to kind of see everything else around. Like there's a end zone behind the, you know, and this could go bad really.
But good snapper.
And so I just blocked it out, and all I could see was his hand. And so as soon as I snapped it, I was like, we got this. And so there's actually a picture in the Oklahoman, and I was coming up, and I was blocking.
Is that the same picture you had hanging up in your
maybe
classroom?
I know, because it was in the paper. I don't have like a digital copy of it, so I've got like it's in a scrapbook. But and so there's Tommy Harris that was right here, and I kind of was punching up on him, and then there's Derek Strait, and the kid from Lawton was the other jumper, and then there's Dusty Dvorak and Dan Cody.
I know that name.
And Teddy Lehman.
Okay.
And then Jimmy Wilkerson was coming from the other side.
Jesus.
So it was like NFL, and then there's like this medium-sized white guy in the middle, like going like this. And so we hit the field goal, and I was just like, okay, I've done everything I need to do in football. This is good. And so so then we went on, and we got to play in the Houston Bowl, and that was just a great time because we kind of
Was that against Southern Miss?
It was,
Okay,
and they'd beaten us like 2 times in the last 5 years before we played them. They beat us in Stillwater, and then they beat us Coach Miles' first game in Hattiesburg.
That's the game I went to. I went and saw you guys. You guys won that game.
In
Against Southern
Texas,
Miss,
yeah, at the Houston Bowl. And so, you know, there was never any kind of meeting or anything, and I thought I played great considering I really hadn't had any practice reps since early October. And you know, I got my grade sheet, and it was like B+ kind of deal. And I was thinking, you know, you guys didn't really invest a whole lot of practice time in this,
Right.
and so I felt like I handled it as good as I could. And so then when we went down there, it gave him about a month, and the guy that was in front of me, they put him back out there for the Houston Bowl. So But it was great, and
What-
it was fun because we kind of, all my friends that we had been there together for 4 years, it was kind of like we kind of knew we were all fixing to go different directions. So it was
Right.
kind of like a last party, so to speak.
So just go
Yeah,
out with a bang.
yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, it was awesome. And actually she was my fiance at the time, but my wife and her family came down and my family was there. And so then after that game, I took my cleats off and left them in the middle of the field and walked off.
That's cool.
I'd done everything I'd needed to do. So.
And then you graduated. Did you go straight to
Well,
Stillwater High
actually,
School?
at that point, I had already graduated because I graduated in December, and so like it was, yeah, it was
It was
a
really a free for all.
yeah, it was done, and then so that was December 27th, and so then after the Christmas vacation time was over with, my first job was with Stillwater Schools, but I was contracted to work at the Payne County Youth Services.
Okay.
So I was kind of like their in-house teacher. So whenever they got new kids in, then I would sit down and try to work on goal setting and stuff like that, and try
So
to.
you didn't jump straight into coaching.
No, and it wasn't because I didn't want to, but it was like I graduated in December, so there wasn't. I just kind of went with the first job that I could find. I was getting married, and I.
You needed. money
Yeah,
to
yeah.
do it,
I just bought a truck, and so I had payments that I needed to
Yeah.
make, and so I just kind of jumped in on that, and so trying to kind of get some experience, and so then, I got married that summer, and then my first teaching job was at Perkins,
Okay.
and I was teaching 6th and 7th grade students with learning disabilities.
Okay.
And I asked if they needed any help coaching football, and they did junior high football as a part of the school day, and they told me they didn't need me. So I was like, okay. So then after that year was over with, then I went to Stillwater and I taught 7th grade world geography, and that's when that 2004 was my first year coaching.
And what position? Like,
So I was a 9th grade assistant,
okay.
and I had all the special teams.
Who was coaching ninth grade? Was
that
Mills?
was Brett Stokes.
Oh, Stokes was
Yeah,
still okay.
yeah, he was still there, and that was what you asked earlier. That's kind of where like I really love teaching Oklahoma history because I really love learning about Oklahoma, and a big part of that's because of him.
Right,
And I loved his class. And
I had his class, and
Yeah.
it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun, and for the first time I was like, okay, this subject actually makes sense, because I went everywhere with my dad in Oklahoma, so I kind of understood how geography worked and all that kind of stuff, and so, anyways, and I thought, I really would rather do a lower level of football, 9th grade, 8th grade, something like that, because I think that's where a coach can have the most impact, because you need to have some knowledge, and you need to have like a bigger picture.
Right.
And so, and like I said, after the Houston Bowl, and I got that ring, and I got my O Club ring, and it took 10 Big 12 plays to letter, and so I had 4 against Baylor, and I had 6 against OU. So I lettered. And so, a lot of people are always like, "Oh, are you on scholarship?" I was like, "No, that my parents would have been thankful for that." But really, it was more about just kind of, the experience of it all.
And you wanted to bring the experience to that.
And that was kind of always my thing, is I've already got the ring that I wanted.
Right. You wanted to bring a ring for those kids, or
yeah, and
I don't know if do you get rings if you win?
No. What I guess what I'm saying is I felt like I already had my football ring. Like there's nothing left for me to prove.
Right.
You can't challenge my manhood, because football is a very macho sport.
Yep.
You don't get to challenge my manhood. That's one thing that I don't let people do. And so because of that, I can be a very, calm, relaxed person because I did everything I needed to do. And so, for a lot of coaches and parents at that younger level, they're trying to kind of like live through their kid, or they're telling them to do stuff that maybe isn't technically sound and all that kind of stuff because they just haven't been around a lot of good people. And so
football is more than just a sport. It's also teaching that young kid how to be a gentleman, and like that's what I took away from football. Like from you, Mills, Adkins for a season, and then Barnard. Like you guys taught me how to be a man the proper way.
Right. I appreciate that. Well, and that's why to me, like you were saying about rings, I don't, and I've said this, I don't know if you remember it or not, but one of the things that I really believe is that the rings, whether it be, a state championship at the high school level or whatever, to me, whenever I see, because I've been doing it long enough now, whenever I see former players being successful,
right,
and being good husbands and dads and brothers and all that kind of stuff, that's a ring to me. Like
I remember you. Sorry for interrupting. I remember you showing the Kenny Chesney music video of the Boys of Fall.
I know.
And you it was the first year, or it was.
Did I start breaking stuff after that, or
no? I don't think so. But you were like, regardless if we don't win every game, like you won't get that feeling all the time, but it will come in different ways. Just like how the music video explains, like when your first child is born, you're gonna feel the same way you stepping onto that field, kind of, like you got different goals, but it's the same feeling.
That sounds like something I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's why just people that I've coached and now they're being successful in business or coaching, and one of my former players, he's started his own trucking company and he owns like 4 trucks now, and another is in medical school, and all those kinds of things. To me, that's my coaching ring.
Another is a stand-up comedian.
That's right. There you go. Hey, no, but I'm saying you're not in prison. You're not dead. You're not. You know what I'm saying? You took a risk on creating this whole HealyCast thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's being able to take a risk,
Absolutely.
And I knew you'd be successful whenever it was 3rd and 5 at Ponca City, and you were playing the Rob linebacker, right?
Yep.
And they tried to run a toss sweep on you. Are you with me yet?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
Right? And I was just standing there watching you do it. You popped your feet. You saw the ball coming at you, and you ran. You met the guy in the hole. You wrapped up. You ran your feet on contact, and it was 4th down for them. And I was like, it was like one of my favorite coaching plays ever.
One of my favorite plays was scoring a touchdown. It was a complete blown play.
Okay, that wasn't as fun for me. I was the defensive
I
coordinator.
was a quarterback.
Right, but I'm saying I was the defensive coordinator, so to see you do what I asked you to do, and you did it whenever you had to do it, and we won that game because I don't like losing to Ponca at anything. And I was just like, it was like I was watching you do it in slow motion.
I was really upset because I had to poop.
And that's what made you.
I just want this game to end. So I was just like, I gotta knock someone over.
So is that the comedian side coming out?
The comedian side.
Okay.
But I did have to poop that game.
I gotcha. That's cool. Well, yeah, you made it, right?
So, getting down to the nitty gritty, are you gonna follow in your dad's footsteps?
Wow, that's a good question.
Because I could see you doing it too. Like, you two are probably celebrities around, like you guys are known around. The Talley family is known around Stillwater.
Well, and that's in large part thanks to Dad and everything that he's done, and Mom and the impact she's had in education. Probably not right off. It's something I'm interested in, because I've kind of watched him do it. But I also, if I do it, it'll be kind of like how he's done it. I'll wait until my kids are older. I'm 42 and my sister's about to turn 40, so she's 39.
Is she still in Nebraska?
Yeah, she's still in Nebraska. And so, I still call him all the time for stuff I need and advice and all that kind of stuff. But, for me, I try to help my kids get ready for school and making lunches. And
I just asked because you have taught, Oklahoma history and government, so.
I think it would be cool maybe whenever I'm done teaching. February 20th, 2036, I'm done teaching, and maybe I file in that year.
You got it down.
Well, I just got the letter from the teacher retirement system, so.
Okay.
And so some people got offended that I said that, but I was like, well, I come from a football world, and whenever you're looking up there at the scoreboard, it tells you exactly what quarter and what time and down and distance. So if you know what those are, it changes the plays that you call. So
Very true.
I'm just like, I'm 18 years into it, and maybe that's something I do. So I'll be 57 whenever, which is cool because that's the number on the back of the helmet. So, yeah. So,
Really
so if I don't know, I'll have to look and see. But if that's an election cycle, that would be cool to go and file. And I think it would be.
Would you do House or Senate?
I'd probably go House, like Dad, because Senate will probably always wind up being like all of Payne County.
You just want.
Yeah, I think it would be just a really cool thing to be able to say that I'm in my dad's seat, my dad's old seat, because I respect him that much.
That would be actually really, really cool.
It would be. That would be really cool.
And then your wife can text you to sit up, straighten up.
Yes. No. Yeah.
Your dad told me that your mom was texting him like he was like.
Well, and that's why like on my phone, my ringtone for my mom is payphone. Because she's always trying to change me. You weren't ready for that, were you?
I was not.
Yeah. So whenever she sees this, she'll probably be happy with me. But anyways.
No, that's awesome. So eventually you're maybe.
Yeah. So it's been cool. Like it was different watching my mom run. Because, she's known at the middle school. She's known at the board building. She's known around just kind of in the Stillwater education community because she's worked really hard in that area. But whenever you got to go into Yale or Cushing or Perkins and you got to try to, talk to voters and stuff like that, it was more difficult for her. My dad, because of his job he already had, he goes and sees people in those.
He already socializes.
But he always those district or those towns in the district that he needs to win votes from.
He's already been there because
for
of
25 years.
What he's doing with FCA and everything like that.
Right. And so people there, they already know him. So it was like, hey, John, how are you running? You got my vote. And it was like, and my mom was like, this isn't even fair. That's not even campaigning. Because for every vote she would have to go get, she'd have, hi, I'm Carol Talley. I'm running for House 33.
Right.
Oh, you're John's wife. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think I'll go vote for you. But for my dad, it was like, John, I'm there for you. And I'm telling my husband to vote for you too. And all that kind of stuff. And so, that was, it was fun working on both those campaigns. It was really fun.
I never got a
winning.
sign from you.
What?
I never got a sign from you. I asked.
You did?
No, I never did.
Okay. We'll
my
work
feelings.
on that. Well, and that was kind of, honestly, those are some of the things that
I think you told me you were out of them.
Yeah, and that's kind of the other side of it that always kind of makes me a little bit hesitant on running is I'm not very good at asking other people for money. And so you have to, even for a house race, you're gonna have to raise. You're gonna have to raise money. About thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And so that'll be a challenge of mine. If I choose to run at some point, because that's it's hard to go ask people for money. But the other thing, and I was telling Dad this, is that our family makes a really good team. We do a good job of supporting each other.
That's what I've noticed, definitely.
And so I was like, if I'm the one in the seat, then who's doing my job? If I'm 57, if Mom's still alive, is she gonna still be able to, because she kind of has her parts that she helps him on, and I do, and then we hired a really awesome just team around Dad to try to get him elected, and all their advice and counsel and everything, it paid off because he's won twice.
Right.
So,
yeah. That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll ever go back to coaching? Or are you like done? Because I know there like, for instance, just example, Coach Snyder. He retired and then he came back. So do you you said
if I was
2036.
If I was making Bill Snyder money, yeah, I probably would. And that's kind of the hard thing about coaching.
Would you ever take the high school job if it ever became available?
You know, I don't know that I've done the things that I need to do to build my resume to take that job. It would have to, I mean, it would be somebody kind of taking a leap of faith on me.
I mean, Barnard's done a great job with that program. So.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like the hard part about coaching, and what I noticed because playing college football was an unbelievable. I always tell people it kind of gave me like a master's degree in football because I kept everything. I had an unbelievable position coach my first year with Tommy Kaiser. Mm-hmm. He's a special teams legend, and he left Oklahoma State to go coach for the Buffalo Bills, which most college coaches look at the NFL like you're getting a doctorate in football. And so in 4 years I had 3 position coaches. And so it's hard to kind of gain traction as a player. And then I played for 2 head coaches. And so I've seen kind of what that turnover looks like. And so I love living in Stillwater. I love raising my children here, and all that. And so I kind of came to the conclusion pretty quickly, I don't want to be on that coaching carousel. Mm-hmm. One of the coaches, just as an example, that I played for kind of in 2000, he had been in like 20 years, he had been at Oregon State, Northern Illinois, Kentucky, Texas A&M, and then Oklahoma State, Ohio University, USC, Arkansas, the Atlanta Falcons, and I haven't checked to see where he is now, but and so that's not what I want to do. That doesn't look like fun to me. I hate moving. I hate watching other people move. I don't want to do that.
It becomes hard on the family as well.
Oh yeah, and so one coaches that was in kind of that rotation, he had been Baylor, Wisconsin, all over the map too, and so whenever he went to leave Georgia Tech, his wife was like, "I'm not leaving," and I can think of several coaches where their wives are like, "Yeah, I'm not leaving. I'll just stay right here," and I don't want to ever. I want to be there for my kids' stuff.
Usually when the kids are like seniors or juniors in high school, they stay back until they graduate, and then everyone comes, or they go to college, and then the wife follows. Yeah, that's what I've heard, at least. I don't know.
No, that's true. I mean, and in fact, one of my friends, his daughter stayed back whenever he had to move, and so I don't want to ever do that to my kids.
Is your son playing football yet?
Well, so he has played 3 years of flag football, and we're kind of taking it slow on that. For a lot of just philosophical reasons on my part. The biggest being, I want him to be great at 18, not 8. And wearing your helmet and
CTE
all that.
CTE and all that.
Yeah,
Did I say that right? CTE?
Yeah, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Encephalitis? I don't know.
But that's the Will Smith movie where he was trying to prove.
Yeah. And I mean, gosh, there was one time at OSU practice, because I was always with the linebackers, and so my first year there was 7 linebackers in that group, because it was with Coach Ryan, that went and played at the NFL, and so I was like the all-time ball carrier.
Okay.
And I got hit so hard, I don't even know where the ball went, and I remember everything was just yellow. Like for the whole, like I got up and I was just like, I'd never been hit like that. And I mean, ever. I'm usually the one that was like bringing it, but
I still see the mark right there.
There you go. And I went through the rest of practice and everything looked like that Stillwater yellow, like I had yellow glasses on. So I probably had about 5 or 6 legit concussions.
that were never were diagnosed or not
Well,
necessarily diagnosed?
yeah, because in high school, when I was a sophomore, I was running down on kickoff, and you could still do like the cross block, and so somebody came from the other side, and I never saw him,
Side blind.
and just everything went black, and then the next thing I knew, my dad was in the training room going, "All right, let's go home," and I was like, "Why? Where's my helmet?" And so, um, yeah, and so there's a lot of that where I'm not in a hurry for him to do that, and um, I don't know. I'm not worried about him being a tough guy, and he loves football. He thinks Mason's like his best friend, and uh, and so anyways, you know, I think I'm pretty confident that all the areas that everybody else is playing in, that he'll be able to get caught up and study up and all that kind of stuff, and he's gonna come into it a little fresher in seventh grade than anybody else.
Is that school ball now?
It is school ball now,
Okay.
and so
I didn't know when they started because
yeah, and so now the 7th and 8th grade practice at the junior high, and then the 9th grade practices at the high school.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so they have 6th-hour athletics, and they take a bus over there and all that. So
Interesting.
yeah, it's really interesting. So
Well, you have anything to promote? Social media?
no, I don't think so.
Are you part of FCA now?
Yeah, well, and that's been hard this year with COVID too, is because you can't do any clubs without writing like a big safety
Right.
thing, and then they has to be approved and all that kind of stuff. And so for the last, well, for 18 years, I've been the FCA coach, but this year, we were in, we were out, and I didn't know how,
What necessarily?
yeah, and so I didn't know what this year was going to look like, so I never really did that, and so it was just a casualty of COVID this year. But I don't see myself ever actually being on staff with FCA.
Okay.
I mean, I know at some point, Dad's gonna have to hang it up.
Well, it was in your class own, or was it Stokes' classroom?
It's been in all those rooms there, but like, so the way that works is like there are people like my dad that they have the state all divided up, and so what they do is they come and they support like the local coach, bring them Bibles, see if there's anything they can do for them, try to get kids to go to camp, stuff like that. So that's what they do, and so that's actually being on staff with FCA. For me, it would be just being the local contact at that school. And so that's kind of cool because it's another way that my dad and I get to be with each other and all that kind of stuff. And really, I just see it as me kind of supporting his ministry. So, I don't know that whenever he decides to retire, I don't know that I'm necessarily the person
To pick up the torch.
Yeah, I don't want it to be like, Kansas State didn't hire Coach Snyder's son whenever he retired. They went and found somebody else.
Well, wasn't that the condition for Snyder? That's a whole nother story. I guess,
right.
but
And I don't know all the ins and outs. I don't have any real hookups in case at Manhattan. But
how much more time do we have?
23 minutes.
Oh, okay. I want to dive into this.
Okay,
real
go for
quick.
it.
I
Yeah.
thought we were closer. My bad.
no,
Uh,
you're good.
What was I dove in it with your dad about the Sports Illustrated article. How did
Right.
that affect you and your family? Obviously, it affected your dad and your mom. I'm just curious how it affected you necessarily.
That's a good question, and I don't know that anybody's ever really asked me this before. So, that was the year that I stopped coaching, and I look at it as that was probably a good move, because I feel like my dad needed me that year,
Okay.
and so I didn't have to, I mean, God, coaching is 24/7.
Yep.
I mean, there wasn't, just because it's not, August to November, there was a email, phone call, something that I was trying to get done for football.
Regulations change. You gotta keep up with.
Right. And then there's, just helmets and, scheduling
Right.
and going to clinics and organizing off-season stuff, all that kind of stuff. And so, the reason why I'm saying that is because whenever I stopped coaching, that happened, and I was very thankful that I wasn't trying to juggle all that and try to be a good coach and try to have practices and going to games and all that kind of stuff. Um, and so, whenever it first came out, I knew it wasn't true, and it was really funny how so many details were conveniently left out. And then the other reason why I thought it was kind of funny was because they didn't come interview me, right? And so those were my teammates, and so I'd be like, "Hey, you guys, we're grilling burgers tonight. You guys want to come eat?"
Right.
And so everybody like, "Yeah, come on." And so I'd already been there for a year and a half at that point, and so those are just my teammates. I would be offended if they thought that they kept me around on OSU's team so that guys would have like a place to go eat burgers. Like whether I'm on the team or not, my dad's still going to do his job.
Right.
That was like a totally separate deal. It was just,
That was
friends.
friends hanging
Yeah,
out with each
hanging
other.
out, watching movies, eating pizza,
They got all the way down to you eating burgers with your teammates.
Right. And that's why, and so, and so there was more than just Osso there. There was a bunch of guys. I mean, we were jumping in the pool and riding horses and, doing all kinds of fun stuff. Um, and so, it was, it was kind of like that movie, It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay.
It was a very Capra-esque moment in my life because I'd watched my dad pour out his whole life into all these different people and never really asking for anything back. And then all of a sudden, this allegation comes out, and so I was like, okay, how are people going to respond to this? Are they going to respond to the person that's always been there when somebody needs to be moved, or somebody needs a tree cut down, or somebody needs somebody to do a funeral service, or, somebody needs to go.
And how did the community respond to
Oh,
it?
it was unbelievable. Like, it was so awesome. And that's why I was like, okay, no matter what happens, this is going to be okay because the people that he's been ministering to for 35 years at that point, they don't believe it. They don't
Right.
believe a word of it because there were times whenever he's paid for stuff out of his own pocket for people that can't do stuff for themselves, and the food banks that he goes to, and just people getting clothes, or people in the Stillwater community that he's provided things for or found resources for. Everybody didn't believe it. And so I was like, okay, thank you. Because if people were going to believe that, then I was fixing to get really mad. And that's what made me mad when the guy that was running against Mom, he tried to bring that back up. And I was like, all right, you're a jerk. Like, that has nothing to do with my mom running for state house.
Right.
And so he was putting it on his robocalls and stuff like that. But all the people in this area, and then the amount of people that were like, hey, what do we need to do? And the people that defended him, and all that kind of stuff. It's hard to say in 23 minutes what he's done. And the thing too is, he and my mom are a team, and they're in this together. And so the both of them have done a lot for the Stillwater community. And so it was good. It was a Capra-esque moment. It was like George Bailey at the end of It's a Wonderful Life, and all the people show up at his house. It was just like that. There was a couple of people on Facebook that said some stuff, but like I didn't even have to do anything. Other people were jumping on them
Right.
like, no, that's not how it is.
I
Like,
didn't know the whole story. I just read the Sports Illustrated,
Well,
and then
so-
I asked my dad, I'm like, "Is this real?" And he's like, "You've worked for him."
Yeah.
No, it's not. I'm
Yeah,
Like, okay.
I mean the gist of it is that he was giving OSU an unfair advantage because he was paying players out of his pocket, and he was letting them do
a
jobs.
larger amount than what was
Right,
actually
like
paid.
like one of the players accused him of he shoed his horse for like $1,200. Well, first of all, we only have one horseshoe guy, and he's got it on a schedule.
Right.
And then the second thing is that, like if you don't know what you're doing when you're shoeing a horse, you can cripple a horse. So he's not going to let just some random OSU football player here.
Right.
And, horseshoeing tools are expensive, and we don't own any. I mean, we have a couple of things, but we couldn't shoe horses with the tools that Dad has at his house. And so the sad part is they gave journalism a bad name because they didn't actually try to investigate.
Your dad used the words fake news.
Yeah, that was probably one of the first legit fake news stories in Oklahoma. And I get what they're trying to say because
There are some sketchy things going around.
yeah, well, and so like for example, I didn't realize this until I got to college, and I was sitting there and I was getting my ankles taped before practice, and the quarterback was sitting next to me, was getting his ankles taped, and it was about to be the Booker T Stillwater game, and I said, "Hey, are you going to watch the game tonight?" Because we were off that Saturday, it was an off week, and he goes, "I don't have a ride," and I was like, "Oh." And I just kind of it hit me. Not everybody that's at OSU has a vehicle,
Right.
and so there's a story there to be told.
And the
You don't
football stadium wasn't just across
right,
the
but
way.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's a story there to be told about how hard it is on college athletes and how difficult a lot of them come from bad circumstances
Right.
and they don't have hardly anything, and so and how the NCAA is making billions of dollars off of them, and we're right here where March Madness is going to be back up, and they're going to make lots of money off of that, and so there's an argument to be made there, but that wasn't the story. If anything, the story was how how awesome it is. And then the other thing too that really bothered me was the time period that we were talking about. I think OSU was like 47-33. So we had gotten better. We'd gotten to go to
But
some
it
bowl
wasn't
games.
a major.
Yeah, we weren't winning Big 12 championships.
Right.
We weren't going to the national championship. We got to go to the Houston Bowl.
If anything, look at Alabama.
Yeah, go look at Baylor. What the hell happened there? You know what I'm saying?
Right, no.
Like they go from being everybody's doormat to all of a sudden they're like
They're-
going to BCS games and
Right.
or whatever they're calling it now, playoff games or whatever. They're going to the
New
going to
Year's
the
Eve.
major bowls. They're not going to the Houston Bowl.
The
Which-
New Year's Six bowls. or
Yeah.
whatever, Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So it just I don't know. I wish somebody would tell more of the compelling 60 minutes style stories about what goes on in college football. You ought to have me back because that's
Yeah,
like a whole
definitely.
other. Oh, I could go on for days about stuff that I've seen and all that.
Definitely. wanna do
Not
that.
done. I've seen. I want to stress that. So, but it kind of, I don't know, and that's kind of where I am with football right now. I guess is that I don't really. I probably if you asked me and you had to nail me down to one, I would probably say Rudy is my favorite college football movie because the other ones I'm like, yeah, that's a little too realistic there. Like the program and some of those other ones because I was like, yeah, that's a little close to home.
Really.
Not for me, but for guys I played with.
Mm.
So, and that's what like one of my friends was like, oh, you don't like Friday Night Lights? And I was like, well, I lived it. I don't need to like that movie. I don't know. Sometimes whenever people are trying to make movies about football, it just doesn't do it for me.
I love Friday Night Lights. Only they screwed up with the visors. So the time period.
And that's what stuff like that bothers me. Like
Right.
I can't just be like, okay. Or like when they're wearing Under Armour stuff, and it's like Under Armour wasn't even invented yet. Are you serious?
It took place in the 70s or
Yeah.
late 70s, early 80s, I believe, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
The helmets weren't correct first off. And
Yeah.
It
No.
was just all off. But
Well, and then the other thing is too is like I've actually met Don Billingsley. Like he comes to FCA things. Like he went to East Central.
okay.
We have some mutual friends. I mean he's not a friend of mine, but I've met him. I mean he's not a whole lot bigger than you. And they made it look like he was just like trucking everybody. and so I don't know. I don't know. I guess and then I was talking to one of my high school teammates. He was saying, or we were talking about the movie Varsity Blues.
Oh,
He was
gosh.
like, "Yeah, we lived that. We don't need
Well,
to."
We Are Marshall is probably my all-time favorite one.
Yeah, that's
or Remember the Time. Jeez, there's so many out
yeah, yeah. So we could just come back and just talk about movies too.
Oh,
'cause,
yeah.
yeah. I love movies.
Definitely.
But
But
um,
you have anything to, like I said, have anything promote,
I-
social media, whatnot?
no, I mean, I don't think so.
Go check out Stillwater High School football
There
and
you go.
Oklahoma State football.
There you go. At
There you go.
Salty57
There you
on
go.
on it on Twitter and Instagram.
You get to retire at the age of 57.
That's right. Well, no. Just be vested in
Be
teacher
vested.
retirement.
Okay.
Yeah. So
There you go.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
I'm really proud of you for
Thank you.
doing all this and taking risks and all that kind of stuff. So
Definitely.
go out there and keep being one of my rings.
It was nice catching up with one of my mentors and head football coach, Saul Talley.
There you
Guys, we're out. Thank you.